Google Sheets is a very powerful tool, especially when you couple it with graphing. Now, Google Sheets has come up with some new ways to look at how we format the actual graphs themselves, the type of graphs we have. Their setting menu has changed, and to be honest, there are a lot of options, which therefore makes graphing difficult as far as what to pull where and what data points need to be in what location to make things work. But I think it's important for us to see the possibilities that truly exist when we look at Google Sheets and quick ways to access our data. I'll be honest, the setup piece is a little bit more difficult, but when we can actually get that setup piece taken care of, it makes our data tracking easier, more purposeful, and allows us to quickly assess kind of where our students are. Some examples that I've grabbed are some different types of graphing pieces that I've worked on this year. We can look at graphs as far as a simple table across quarters. So in this case, this is measuring student math facts and percentages across 4 quarters and what that might look like, and seeing if we can notice improvement quickly among math facts. Similar for counting, we can see what they can count to 60, 70, 80, 90. In terms of counting to 120 in ones, we can see that across all 4 different quarters and see if they're getting better or worse. We can do stuff like looking at building a digital reading log and saying, okay, here's the types of books that I can have. We can make our selections in here. And then we can have a type of graph that says, okay, based on as I'm putting these books in that I read, what am I reading more of? We can look at pie graphs and creating those and seeing, quickly, what am I reading more of? This person's reading more realistic fiction and memoir than they are anything else. So it gives you as a teacher a quick way to look and say whether or not you need to be doing and pushing a student a different direction. We can also look at our ECA data, our EQA data at the end of each quarter. We can help students track their assessments throughout the year as we take our classes. And from our classes, then we can put in, where they are, we can create aim lines. Our class goal is to be at 80%. Well, here's where we actually are on quiz 1 as a class. What are we going to do to be able to, to raise that percentage there so that we get, if this is what it is in quiz 1, how can we get it to where it's meeting 80% by the end? So a lot of different options with graphs, some different data tracking pieces we can use. We insert graphs once our data is in a chart. We insert a graph by going to insert and then chart. And that'll give us a bunch of different options of different things that we can do. So I just first off, understand that Google Sheets really does want to look at this and wants to make things easier for you. So I just went to chart. It pulled data from whatever's on my sheet and gave me a chart here. So it will do it automatically for you. You can make it so you can create your own. But let's take a look at what are some of the different options I have when I want to make a chart. By double clicking on the graph itself, I can see on the right-hand side, this is the new feature that Google has added in Sheets, which is Chart Editor. You have the ability to look at either your data, or you can also customize your chart. We can look at our chart type. There will always be some that are suggested. In this case, they realize I have more of a grid, so they like the comparison side-by-side bar graph. You can also do a stacked bar graph, a side bar graph, and a pie graph. Then you have your other options that you can use as well. And you're welcome to choose anything you want to. Google's just saying, based on the data that you have, here is what we recommend. You can look at whether or not you want to stack your graphs itself. The data range is probably the most important piece. I'm pulling data from A1 through D5, which is so A1 through this bottom piece here, which is D5. And I'm pulling all of that. I'm not just pulling the numbers, I'm also pulling their labels as well. And when I do that, that's how things get labeled here. We have opportunities to switch our rows and columns. So when I have a chart like this, we can, by just toggling these switches on and off, you can see how my graph goes from now it's my counting chart, but instead of me looking at it as 4 different quarter colors and seeing here's my count to 120 by ones, I got to 60 the first quarter, 70 the second, 80 the third, 90 the fourth. Well, now when I switch it, I can see that in quarter 1 on orange, I can, when I'm counting to ones, I can go to 60. When I'm counting to 120 by 5s, I can go to 70. When I'm counting to 120 by 10s, I can go to 10. And so you as a teacher are looking at this and saying, what might be the holdup for this student? It'd be counting to 120 by 10s. So there's a bunch of different options here as far as different buttons we can click. The customize piece allows you to change your background color, your font. You can make the graph as big as small as you want, making it 3D look a little cooler. This is where you go ahead and label. Here's the chart title. I can make a title, a subtitle. I can label my axis, my horizontal and vertical axes. I also can look at the font for all of those as well. Also under customize, where it has series, my series is my data collections. So I can do quarter one. I can color them different things, and so they're easy to see. So when I click on like quarter one, I can change the color, and I also can choose to put data labels. So, for instance, that's why you see this number 60 here. I can put those data labels on and off. The legend itself it's once again customizing position where you want it at. Right here, it's on the right hand side, and also the labels that we can, the font and stuff we can do with it. You can label and change the font and text of your horizontal and vertical axes, and you can also put grid lines in there. So one other important thing I do want to mention with this is just remember that with data, that's referring to the actual information that you're inputting. In this case, it's this grid on my Google Sheet right here for my fourth grade reading log. This graph, this pie chart, because it's summing up all of these different types of genre codes. It's everything from D2 and on, so all the way down as many books as I read. For this one, this chart's a little more complicated, but it's really just pulling series of data. It's pulling my quiz percentages for quiz 1, quiz 2, quiz 3, my unit test. And also it's pulling my class goal, and it makes that an aim line. So like I said, this video isn't really to walk you through each part of the chart editor and how to input that. What it's really trying to do is give you an understanding of the types of things that we can do with data. Obviously, we do a lot of data tracking in our day-to-day lives. And our goal with this is not to have one more new tool. It's just to have something so where once you set everything up in Google Sheets, so honestly right now this graph is gone. Once I have everything set up, I can go ahead and create a chart or a graph that's going to quickly allow me to assess that student. So initially it may be a little more cumbersome and difficult to do, but once you have everything set up and it's with the kid, like these things adjust on the fly. So as the kid starts reading more realistic fiction, you can see that the pie graph gets taken over by these realistic fiction books. And so with this student, I might say, okay, it's time to stop reading realistic fiction. Let's go ahead and take a look at some more fantasy books. As they read more fantasy, obviously that gets bigger because it's more of a percent of the books they've read. So this video is really just show you some different options we have. If you'd like to set up a meeting with one of the innovation coaches, we'd love to show you how to use Google Sheets and especially use the new chart and graph editor to work with some data and hopefully help you establish some easier ways for you to set up and analyze data in your classroom.